Hello viewers, 4DIYers here with another video for everyone. In this video here I'll be showing you how to replace the alternator on a second generation Honda Pilot. This is a 2011 model equipped with the 3.5 liter V6. If you haven't repaired the VVT solenoid gasket just above the alternator, I would highly recommend doing that if it's currently leaking and your alternator has failed. The leaking oil can cause a premature failure. I do have a video on this replacement and I'll include that in the video description. A failing alternator will trigger a battery light on the gauge cluster along with potentially making other electronics of the vehicle completely fail or malfunction. First, using a 10mm socket with a ratchet, remove the negative terminal on the battery. This will reduce the chance of shorting out anything when removing the power cable on the alternator. Next is removing the engine cover. Using a standard screwdriver, turn those two front clips counterclockwise a quarter turn and then lift it off. Remove the coolant expansion tank. This simply sits into a slot. Pull up and then place it off to the side. Next, using a 3/8 drive ratchet with a 3-inch extension and a 10mm socket, remove the two bolts holding on the bracket. This will give us more room to maneuver the alternator out. Push the bracket off to the side, make sure it doesn't tip over where it dumps out the power steering fluid. I'll give a couple different angles for the next step so you can see exactly what's going on. This is a tight area, so I will do my best to provide as many angles as possible. First is disconnecting the main power wire on the alternator. Pull the rubber cap off and this will expose a 12mm nut. Then remove that 12mm nut. For the other angle, again, is pulling that rubber cap off and removing that 12mm nut. For this, I'm using a socket, 3-inch extension, with a 3/8 drive ratchet. Remove the bolt holding on the harness. This is a 10mm. Again, for that additional angle, it's harder to see here. I'm using a 3/8 drive ratchet, 3-inch extension, and a 10mm socket. Now at the back side of the alternator there will be another rubber boot. Remove this and this will expose an electrical connector. Push on the tang and then pull it out of the connection. Here's that additional angle from the top. You can get a reference of where to go to get into that connector. Again, was removing that rubber boot and then unplugging the connection. Next is removing that serpentine belt. Here we need a 19mm socket and a Johnson bar or longer ratchet to relieve the tension. This is the hex where you need to install that socket. From above you can see I'm pushing the ratchet towards the firewall. Once enough tension has been removed from the belt, then pull the belt off the power steering pump. I did have footage for the removal, but for whatever reason the files were corrupt, so I had to go back and shoot additional footage so everyone gets an idea of what bolt I'm talking about. First is removing those two 12mm top bolts. The bolt on the right fastens the alternator to the bracket, and the bolt on the left fastens the bracket to the engine. It's best to remove this bracket to gain some extra room for removal. The last bolt to remove for the alternator is the 14mm located at the bottom. All these bolts can be accessed from above the engine. There is no need to go underneath or through the fender well. I used a 3/8 drive ratchet with a 3-inch extension and a shallow socket. All this extra footage was taken with my Teslong NTS 700 borescope. This has been a huge help in order to find fasteners and to provide an extra set of eyes when working on components I can't see directly. This is definitely a must-have for anyone working on vehicles, and a link to this will be included in the video description. It's a little maneuvering, however the alternator can be removed without taking any extra components off. You'll need to direct it around all the other components, and you may need to push some of the stuff out of the way slightly. Compare the old and new alternators to ensure they are the same. As you can see, the old alternator is covered in quite a bit of oil, and unfortunately it's most likely failed due to a leaking solenoid gasket. I did cover this repair in a previous video, and I'll include a link in the video description as mentioned earlier. This is a common failure point. Feed in the new alternator and reverse removal. This does take some patience in order to direct it around all the components to get it back into place. I did find starting with the two top bolts first with the bracket was the easiest route. Don't tighten them just yet, then get in that bottom bolt. Finally, tighten up all those bolts and ensure everything is lined up correctly. The serpentine belt can be reinstalled. I didn't remove it completely, so I was able to keep the existing routing. Then using the breaker bar with a 90mm socket, relieve the tension, and then reinstall that belt. Reattach the wiring. First was reconnecting that blue electrical connector. Make sure it snaps into place and then push on that rubber boot. Install the 10mm bolt to hold on the wiring harness. Then install a 12mm nut that holds the wire loop into place. Don't forget to install that protective boot. Now is installing the reservoir bracket back into place with those two 10mm bolts. Make sure those bolts are tight and then install the coolant reservoir. Reinstall the battery terminal and tighten using a 10mm socket or wrench. The final step is reinstalling that engine cover. Line up those rear clips and then push the front clips into place. Turn each of those front clips a quarter turn to lock them in. This concludes the rest of my video. I hope you enjoyed it. New videos released every week on my channel. Be sure to hit that thumbs up button. It's a huge help to me, and leave a comment below if you found this tutorial helpful. If you're not a subscriber, be sure to also hit the subscribe button. Thank you for watching.